The late autumn sunlight filtered through the grimy Victorian windows, casting long shadows across the worn hardwood floors of the Aldrich family home. Joel Fitzpatrick stood in the center of the living room, his keen developer's eye cataloging every crack and every sign of decay in the once magnificent house. At 42, he had transformed countless properties from ruins to riches. But this one was different. This was personal. His wife, Johanna Aldrich, traced her fingers along the faded wallpaper. Her eyes glistened with carefully crafted tears. "Remember when we had Christmas here last year, Joel? Before Dad got sick?" she asked while briefly checking her phone. The house had been full of life then. Joel nodded, though his attention focused on the structural issues he had already identified. The foundation needed work, and the electrical system was at least 30 years outdated. He pulled out his tablet and made quick notes. "The medical bills," Johanna said, her voice cracking, "have taken everything Mom and Dad had saved. The heart surgery, the complications, the extended hospital stay." She gestured helplessly at the peeling paint and water-stained ceiling. Cecil Vance, her father, shuffled into the room. At 72, he leaned heavily on his cane and looked far older than his years. "Joel, my son, I hate to even ask, but perhaps you can help," he said in a quiet, authoritative tone. He had built Fitzpatrick Development into one of the city's most respected firms. "This house has too much history to let it fall apart," he added. Florence Kinney, Johanna's mother, appeared with a tray of coffee cups, her hands trembling slightly. "We couldn't possibly accept your family situation," Joel stated firmly, already pulling up his contractor contacts. "Besides, property values here are rising. Restoration is good business." He noted how Florence's eyes darted to Johanna, and the slight nod they exchanged. Randolph Ramsey, his project manager of 15 years, arrived within the hour. The burly man walked with Joel, his expression growing increasingly concerned. "Boss, the preliminary estimate is at least $200,000. And that is conservative." Joel made notes on his tablet. "I want your A-team on this, Randy. Use period-appropriate materials wherever possible. I need a full structural assessment by Wednesday." Randolph lowered his voice. "It's not just the money. The timelines are tight too. We're looking at 4 to 6 months at minimum." Joel glanced through the window, watching Johanna in the overgrown garden with her phone pressed to her ear. She smiled in a way he had not seen for months. "Whatever it takes, Randy, I want this done right," he said. Later that evening, while reviewing initial plans in his home office, his sister Maddie called. "Big project, big heart, or both?" she teased. "It's the right thing to do," Joel replied as he scanned material costs. Cecil and Florence shouldn't lose their home because of medical debt. "Besides, you know how much the house means to Johanna," Maddie added in an odd tone. "She's been spending a lot of time at the club lately. Usually in the private dining room," Joel dismissed. "She's probably just stressed about her parents. Listen, Maddie, I need to finish these estimates. Dinner on Sunday." After hanging up, Joel stood at his window and looked out over the city he had helped shape. He had built his company from nothing. He turned struggling properties into gold mines with vision and ruthless efficiency. This renovation would be no different. He just had to stay focused. In their bedroom, he found Johanna already asleep, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. He gently removed it and placed it on the charging pad, not noticing how quickly she had locked the screen when he entered. The renovation began with surgical precision. Joel coordinated teams of specialists, each chosen for their expertise in historical restoration. The first month saw the house stripped to its bones, revealing both decay and hidden potential. One morning, Joel pointed to a section of uncovered original hardwood floors and said, "We can restore these. The craftsmanship is incredible." Cecil nodded, though his eyes wandered to the mounting pile of invoices on the kitchen counter. "Joel, the costs are my concern," Cecil said. Joel replied firmly, "I'm handling this personally. Consider it an investment in our family's future. He did not mention the careful financing structure or the meetings with his attorney. Randolph approached as Cecil left. Boss, we found more issues in the East Wing. Extensive termite damage. We'll need to replace most support beams. Do it, Joel said immediately. Source the lumber from Miller's. They still have reclaimed oak. That's premium material. Randolph warned, we're already at $250,000 and climbing. Joel's tone left no room for argument. This house will be perfect when we're done. The work proceeded rapidly. Joel spent hours on site, overseeing every detail. He noticed, but did not comment on, that Johanna's visits grew more frequent, especially when he was scheduled to be elsewhere. One evening, while returning unexpectedly, he heard voices from the garden. Johanna's bright, genuine laugh was followed by a deeper male voice he did not recognize. By the time he rounded the house, she was alone, typing rapidly on her phone while consulting with her mother about fixtures. The next day, Joel's phone buzzed with a text from Maddie. Lunch tomorrow. Need to talk. They met at their usual quiet bistro downtown. Maddie waited until their drinks arrived before speaking. You need to know something. I saw Johanna at the club yesterday. Joel raised an eyebrow, while still reviewing contracts on his tablet. She was with someone. A man. Good-looking. Maybe mid-30s. They looked close. She called him David. Did you get his last name? Maddie asked. Joel's voice remained neutral though his fingers froze on the screen. No, but he's in real estate, one of those flashy types specializing in luxury properties. Maddie watched him carefully. Thank you for telling me. He returned to his contracts with an unchanged expression. That evening, he made several quiet phone calls. Within hours, he had a name. David Lancaster, a rising star at elite properties known for his charm and ability to cultivate wealthy clients. Joel added official security cameras to protect valuable materials arriving daily. The footage was accessible from his phone, though he rarely checked it. Randolph became an invaluable source. Mrs. Fitzpatrick was here last night with a gentleman reviewing design changes you approved, he reported one morning. What kind of changes? Joel asked mildly as he converted the den into a home office setup. Randolph shifted uncomfortably. She seemed quite sure about the details. Joel nodded and made a note. Interesting. Keep me posted on any other design consultations. The house transformed day by day. Custom woodwork, restored fixtures, and hand-painted tiles imported from Italy emerge. Joel's attention to detail was obsessive, earning admiration from his crews and concern from his financial advisors. It's not just about the renovation, he explained to his attorney, Corey Mayer, during one of their regular meetings. It's about creating something lasting and permanent. Corey, who had known Joel since college, studied him carefully. And you're sure about the ownership structure we discussed? Absolutely, Joel replied sharply. Family is important, but so is protecting one's investments. Signs of betrayal began to accumulate like the daily cleared construction debris. There were secret phone conversations in the garden, and a black Mercedes cruising past during his meetings. Florence's anxious overcompensation with baked goods when he visited did not go unnoticed. Maddie became his unofficial intelligence network. They're not subtle anymore, she reported at their weekly lunch. David is practically moving into the club. They even had dinner in the main dining room last night, where everyone could see them. At dinner, Joel speared a piece of salmon and asked, "Tell me about him." Maddie replied, "He's a smooth operator, designer suits, luxury car, all flash and little substance. He's been through 3 divorces, each time taking property or settlements. Real estate agent specializing in specific opportunities. Interesting timing," Joel mused, glancing at the shining house exterior. The house gleamed with fresh paint, and the gardens were restored to their former glory. Inside, every room became a showcase of craftsmanship. Joel had spared no expense. "Hope you know what you're doing," Randolph commented one afternoon as another truck of custom materials arrived. "This is way beyond the original budget." Joel stood in what would become the master suite and surveyed the work. "Tell me about their evening visits, Randy. The ones I'm not supposed to know about," he demanded. Randolph hesitated. "Usually after 7, when the crews are gone. They spend a lot of time in the master suite, planning furniture placement and measuring for his and her custom closets." That evening, Joel worked late in his office reviewing hidden camera footage. He watched Johanna and David walk through the house. Their body language was intimate and presumptuous. In one clip from the master suite, David gestured grandly. "This will be perfect. Once we move in, we can really make it our own." Joel observed that Johanna's laugh in the footage was cold. She was so focused on the renovation, she did not see what was right in front of her. Later, Joel reviewed a draft email from David to his realtor friends. David boasted about moving into a fully renovated Victorian mansion. The housewarming party had been Joel's idea. "We should celebrate properly, invite everyone. Make it an event." The email read. The house was stunning. Restored hardwood gleamed under crystal chandeliers, and period wallpaper with custom millwork transformed every room. Outside, the garden, once overgrown, now rivaled any in the historic district. Guests admired the transformation. Cecil and Florence played proud hosts, accepting compliments for their son-in-law's vision and generosity. They did not notice Johanna's constant glances at her phone. David arrived fashionably late in an expensive suit. He moved through the crowd with practiced charm, playing the role of an interested guest rather than a future resident. Only Joel noticed how David's eyes assessed each room, as if counting future possessions. "Magnificent work," David commented as he cornered Joel by the restored fireplace. "You have quite an eye for investment opportunities," David said. "How's the luxury market these days? Still specializing in divorce settlements?" Joel replied pleasantly. David's smile flickered slightly. "I'm not sure what you mean," he murmured. Joel sipped his whiskey. "Fascinating field. Property disputes, asset transfers, strategic relationships, must be profitable." Before David could respond, Johanna appeared with a champagne glass in hand. "Joel, we need to talk." They moved privately to the library where Joel had spent weeks restoring original oak paneling. Johanna closed the doors deliberately. "This isn't working anymore," she began steadily. "David and I are in love. We're moving in next week. I think it's best if you move out immediately." Through the French doors, Joel saw Cecil and Florence beaming as they watched their daughter with proud anticipation. Nearby, David stood, hiding his smugness behind a sympathetic expression. "Perfect timing, actually," Joel said as he set his glass down. "I just listed the house for sale." Silence fell. Johanna's voice rose sharply. "You what?" "Listed it this morning. I already have several interested buyers." Cecil's face reddened as he burst into the library. "This is our home." Joel withdrew a document from his jacket. "It's mine until the renovation costs are repaid in full," he declared. "According to our contract, that comes due immediately in case of divorce," he added calmly. "What contract?" Florence asked, her voice trembling. "The one you signed 2 months ago. The standard renovation financing paperwork you didn't read." Joel smiled pleasantly. "Ownership reverts to me until the full amount is repaid. Given the divorce announcement, it is due immediately," Joel continued. David stepped forward. "Now wait a minute. The full amount is just over $500,000. You're welcome to buy the house at market value. Given the current market and the quality of renovation, it is assessed at just under $2 million. This is our home," Johanna protested. "You can't do that," David added. Joel headed for the door and paused. "You have 30 days to vacate the property. My attorney will be in touch with the exact figures and terms." He walked out into the party, leaving chaos in his wake. As he reached his car, he heard raised voices and the slam of a door. The Mercedes sped away moments later. Joel started his car, catching a glimpse of Johanna's face in an upstairs window. Rage and disbelief painted her features. He drove away without looking back, already planning his next move. The betrayal was complete. Now, it was time for the aftermath. The morning after the housewarming brought chaos to the renovated mansion. Security cameras captured Johanna's hysterical attempts to rearrange furniture. Cecil paced the garden, shouting into his phone at various attorneys, while Florence wept on a restored porch swing commissioned to match vintage photos. In his downtown office, Joel reviewed property assessments with precision. Corey arrived carrying cease and desist letters and a thick folder of background information. 7 women. No, not 3, Corey reported, spreading photographs across Joel's desk. He's been active in Florida and California. Wealthy women, property disputes, quick exits. Send copies to Johanna, Joel instructed without looking up. Let her see exactly whom she betrayed us for. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Fitzpatrick. Mrs. Aldrich's attorney is online. Also, Mr. Ramsey is here with urgent news from the property. Put the attorney through to Corey. Send Randy in, Joel ordered. Randolph entered, looking troubled. Boss, Lancaster showed up with a moving truck and tried claiming some of the antiques we restored were gifts from Johanna. When security stopped him, he got physical. The police are involved, Randolph reported. Joel's phone lit up with security footage. David, his perfect hair disheveled, was shoving a guard before being forcefully restrained. Press charges, Joel decided. File for attempted theft, assault, and trespassing. Document everything. Corey handled the attorney's call with professional detachment. The renovation contract is clear, he said. Mr. Fitzpatrick holds title until full repayment, which is now due immediately per Section 7. Paragraph 3. The Divorce Acceleration Clause. He added, Mrs. Aldrich's claims of emotional manipulation won't void a contract she never read. Joel turned to Randolph. Have your team change every lock, security code, and access point. Complete an inventory of everything inside. Nothing leaves without my written authorization. It's already done, Randolph replied. Then he hesitated. There's something else. I found this in the master bedroom. He handed over a leather-bound notebook. Joel opened it and saw detailed plans in David's handwriting. The sketches outlined subdividing the property into luxury apartments, with notes about potential investors and a marketing strategy targeting wealthy divorces. The final pages listed Joel's business competitors, with Bernard Whittaker's name circled repeatedly. He was planning a divorce retreat, a residential therapy center for wealthy women, Randolph explained. Joel remarked dryly. Ambitious. Send copies to our friend in Palm Beach, the widow I'm pursuing. She might find his plans interesting. The day progressed with mounting desperation. Florence arrived unannounced, appealing to Joel's sense of family. Her tearful pleas turned to bitter accusations when he remained unmoved. How can you be so cold? She demanded. After everything we meant to each other. Cold. Joel finally looked up. Like watching your daughter plot with her lover in the house I restored for you. Florence's protest was interrupted by security footage showing David making one last attempt to enter the property that evening. He arrived in a borrowed car, trying to sneak in through the garden. The cameras caught him talking with Johanna near the rose trellises. It's over, he told her. The house, us, everything. I am too well connected. No bank in this state will touch this deal. Johanna's voice cracked. You promised me. All those plans we made, now plans change. David straightened his torn jacket. I have an opportunity in Palm Beach. A beachfront property with a recently widowed owner. No complications, no renovation costs. You're leaving. Just like that. He said, Face it, Johanna. Your brilliant plan failed. I'm not sticking around for the fallout. He headed for the borrowed car. Should have read the contract before Daddy signed it. The following morning, Joel had Corey deliver a formal options letter. Buy at market value or vacate in 30 days. Security cameras captured Cecil's reaction, rage giving way to despair as he realized the trap they had walked into. Maddie called with updates from her country club sources. David's reputation is spreading fast. 3 different women have come forward with similar stories. It seems he's been running this scheme for years, seducing unhappy wives, manipulating property situations, and then vanishing with their assets. Make sure those stories reach Palm Beach, Joel instructed. My next target should know what she's dealing with. By week's end, David had vanished, leaving Johanna to face the consequences alone. Her carefully planned betrayal had backfired spectacularly, leaving her with no house, no lover, and rapidly dwindling options. The closing meeting was scheduled exactly 30 days after the housewarming party in the expansive conference room of Joel's downtown office. Bernard Whittaker arrived early, his usual competitiveness tempered by genuine admiration for Joel's strategic play. Converting the property into luxury condominiums is brilliant, Bernard admitted as he spread out architectural renderings. 6 units, each with over 3,000 square feet, he explained. We will preserve the historic facade while completely modernizing the interior. He continued, private elevator access, rooftop gardens, and smart home technology throughout. Joel inquired, what about the Historic Preservation Board? Bernard replied, they're already on board. Your renovation work actually helps us. We will maintain the exterior and key interior features while creating something entirely new inside. Bernard's enthusiasm was evident. It's the perfect blend of past and future. The door burst open as Johanna stormed in, followed by her latest attorney. Her designer outfit was wrinkled, and her carefully maintained appearance showed strain. This is deliberate cruelty, she accused, throwing a stack of papers onto the conference table. You're destroying my childhood home out of spite, she cried. Joel corrected calmly. I'm maximizing the return on my investment, the very investment you and David planned to steal. He smiled slightly. How is David, by the way, enjoying Palm Beach? The fight drained from her face. News of David's latest conquest and his hasty departure when confronted with evidence of his past schemes had been particularly painful. Bernard noted, the purchase price is 6 times the renovation costs. That is quite a return on investment. You can't do this to my parents, Johanna protested. They're devastated. Joel signed the closing documents with deliberate precision. They supported your betrayal, helped plan it, and watched you plot with your lover in your own home. I'm their daughter, and I was your husband, she shouted, but it did not change anything. Bernard cleared his throat. Development rights transfer immediately. We can begin work next week. The contractors are already lined up. Joel's phone buzzed with a text from Randolph. Lancaster spotted in Palm Beach. The widow's family hired investigators. This pattern is getting out. Joel informed Johanna. Your parents have moved to the Palm Lake retirement community. Their belongings are in storage, paid through the end of the month. That should give them time to decide what fits in their new apartment, he added. Her attorney made one last attempt. The divorce settlement won't include any part of the sale proceeds. Corey interjected smoothly. The judge was clear this morning. Overwhelming evidence of premeditated betrayal negates any claim to the property's value. Security arrived to escort Johanna out. As she reached the door, she turned back. You'll regret this. Someday, somehow, you'll regret destroying everything we had. The only thing destroyed was your plan to betray me, Joel replied calmly. Everything else is just good business. 1 year later, Joel stood outside the Whittaker Fitzpatrick residences, admiring how the setting sun caught the restored Victorian details of the facade. Behind the historic exterior, 6 luxury condominiums had transformed the space into one of the city's most exclusive addresses. The partnership with Bernard had proved unexpectedly fruitful. Their combined expertise, Joel's eye for restoration and Bernard's talent for modern luxury, had created something unique. All 6 units sold before completion, each commanding premium prices that set new neighborhood records. His phone buzzed with a message from Maddie. "Karma's still working overtime. David's Mercedes just got repossessed outside his new office. He's now selling starter homes in the suburbs." Joel smiled, remembering the satisfying cascade of consequences following David's exposure. The widow's family had pressed charges, and other victims came forward. David's carefully constructed image as a successful luxury real estate agent crumbled. He was left handling modest properties in a suburban strip mall. In his new penthouse office, overlooking the city's most exclusive district, Joel reviewed quarterly reports with Robbie Robertson. They had met during the final phase of the Victorian renovation. Her straightforward approach to construction management was a refreshing change from Johanna's manipulations. The success of the Whittaker-Fitzpatrick project has opened up 3 new opportunities, Robbie noted as she spread out site surveys. "All these historic properties are prime for luxury conversion," she added. "Your reputation for preserving architectural integrity while maximizing modern potential has created quite a niche," Robbie continued. "Speaking of reputations, have you heard about our old friends?" she asked. Robbie smiled sharply. "Johanna's living in that walk-up on Mason Street, the one with the foundation issues we looked at last year. She works as a junior agent at a budget real estate firm. No luxury agency will risk associating with her after the scandal." "And her parents?" Joel asked. "They're settled into Palm Lake. Florence volunteers at the community center, and Cecil plays golf. They've stopped defending Johanna to anyone who will listen." Robbie shrugged. "Reality has a way of clarifying things." Joel's phone buzzed with another message. Bernard was proposing their next joint venture. The market was strong, their partnership thrived, and opportunities continued to appear. "Ready to build something new?" Robbie asked while studying property listings. Joel smiled as he already calculated potential returns. The past year taught valuable lessons about trust, family, and the importance of reading contracts carefully. Perhaps the most important lesson was that success isn't about getting even. It's about getting ahead. Their next project awaited, another historic property ready for transformation. Joel had learned that the best revenge isn't served cold. It is served profitably with impeccable documentation and careful attention to detail. The betrayal that was meant to be his downfall had instead launched his greatest success. As they finished reviewing new proposals, Joel caught a glimpse of David through his office window. David was showing a modest bungalow to an elderly couple. His designer suits were gone, replaced by off-the-rack business casual. He didn't even look up as Joel's car passed by. The betrayal had transformed into triumph, not through emotional vengeance, but through strategic acumen. Joel held the deed to his own destiny now, and the future looked promising indeed. Epilogue. 5 years later, the Whittaker-Fitzpatrick residences had transformed the historic district. The luxury condominium complex became a template for similar projects across the city. Joel Fitzpatrick now occupied the entire top floor of the city's most prestigious business tower. His view encompassed several successful projects, including the Victorian mansion he turned from betrayal into triumph. Restored facades still drew admiring glances, and the 6 luxury units appreciated significantly in value. "Latest market report," Robbie announced as she entered with a tablet. "Now my wife of 2 years has proven invaluable in expanding our business empire," Joel noted with a smile. "Her contractor's precision perfectly complements my developer's vision," he added. "The Whittaker-Fitzpatrick model is now studied in business schools," Robbie said. "They call it adaptive historical development." Joel smiled, remembering how different things looked 5 years ago. "Any news about our old friends?" Robbie asked. Maddie sent interesting updates this morning. "Johanna's downfall has become a cautionary tale in our social circles. After failing to claim any part of the property's value in divorce court, she tried reinventing herself as a luxury real estate agent. But her reputation followed her. No high-end firm will risk association with her notorious scheme. Now, at 47, she works as a junior agent at budget homes, showing modest properties to first-time buyers. Ironically, her office is in one of the strip malls our company recently purchased for redevelopment. Robbie continued. She even tried approaching Bernard last month to explain her side, but he shut that down quickly. David Lancaster's fate proved equally satisfying, Robbie added. After his hasty departure to Palm Beach, his pattern of manipulating wealthy women finally caught up with him. He's now selling timeshares in Nevada. Maddie reported. He lost his real estate license in 3 states. It turns out there were 12 women before Johanna, not just 7. He even tried writing a book about his adventures, but no publisher would touch it. The Mercedes is long gone, replaced by a used Hyundai. His designer suits were sold to cover legal fees. The charming predator became a cautionary tale in real estate circles. Cecil and Florence's situation had evolved too. After initially defending Johanna, reality eroded their denial. Their apartment at Palm Lake Retirement Community was a stark contrast to the family compound they had once envisioned. Florence called last week. Maddie shared during their monthly lunch. She apologized and said watching Johanna's behavior had opened her eyes. She even asked if they might attend your and Robbie's anniversary party next month. Joel considered it briefly before declining. Some bridges stay burned, he decided. The betrayal might have faded, but trust, once shattered, is not easily rebuilt. Professional consequences rippled through their social circle. Several of Johanna and David's enablers found their reputations tarnished. Country club members who once ignored the suspicious lunch meetings were now excluded from prime business opportunities. Remember Thomas from the club? Maddie asked. The one who helped David set up private dining room meetings. His investment firm lost 3 major clients when the story got out. Now he manages a chain restaurant. The partnership with Bernard Whittaker expanded beyond anyone's expectations. What began as a single converted Victorian grew into a series of successful ventures. Their companies, once fierce competitors, now collaborated on increasingly ambitious projects. Bernard's daughter is engaged to Randy's son, Robbie noted. They're even talking about having the reception at the Whittaker Fitzpatrick estate. Apparently, the garden restoration you insisted on makes a perfect wedding venue. Joel's company more than tripled in size, with a reputation for combining historical preservation and luxury development that attracted international attention. The betrayal meant to destroy him had instead launched a new phase of success. Randolph Ramsey was promoted to Chief Operations Officer. His loyalty during the Victorian project earned him both trust and significant equity. His attention to detail proved invaluable on larger projects. Robbie mentioned that another one of David's reinventions was flagged during a background check. He applied for a position under a different name at one of their subsidiaries. The legal documentation of the Victorian project became required reading in several law schools. Corey Maher now taught a seminar on protective contract structures using that case as the primary example. Your revenge wasn't a legal maneuver, Corey explained to his students. It was having the foresight to document everything properly. The best defense is careful preparation. Joel's new office held one reminder of the past, the original architectural plans for the Victorian renovation, framed behind glass. Not as a monument to betrayal, but as a testament to transformation. Maddie had recently expanded her role, now serving as the company's social intelligence director. Her network provided invaluable insights into potential partners and projects. You know what's really ironic? She asked at their last lunch. Johanna's apartment is in a building you're about to acquire. An entire block slated for luxury conversion next year. Life had come full circle. The woman who planned to steal Joel's investment would soon be displaced by another of his successful ventures. The story became a legend in business circles, not because of the betrayal, but because of how masterfully Joel turned personal crisis into professional triumph. There's a certain poetry to it, Bernard commented during their last board meeting. They thought you were distracted by the renovation, too focused on the details to see their plan. But those same details became the foundation of something much bigger. The Whittaker Fitzpatrick residences stood as a testament to transformation. Each of the 6 luxury units had a waiting list, despite price tags that had doubled since the initial sale. Joel and Robbie's penthouse overlooked both the converted Victorian and the site of their next major project, a full city block of historic buildings being transformed into a mixed-use luxury development. Sometimes, Robbie mused, people mistake precision for distraction. Speaking of distractions, did you hear about David? Joel asked while checking his messages. David's timeshare company just filed for bankruptcy. Apparently, his past caught up with him again, Robbie said. A trade magazine article from Renovation to Revolution detailed how one developer transformed betrayal into a billion-dollar business model. The article explained that Joel's experience set a new standard for historical luxury development. Johanna tried to comment by sending a long email about misunderstandings, but the magazine declined her perspective. They noted that the public records spoke for themselves. 5 years had transformed one act of betrayal into an empire built on historical preservation and modern luxury. The lesson wasn't about revenge, it was about vision, seeing beyond immediate betrayal to greater possibilities. Joel built something lasting, not from anger, but from strategic thinking. Ready for the next project? Robbie asked, spreading out plans for their newest acquisition. Joel smiled as he studied the architectural drawings. The past had taught its lessons well. Trust requires verification. Family isn't always blood. The best revenge isn't served cold, it's served profitably. Their future stretched out before them, each project an opportunity to reinvent history. The betrayal that started it all faded into background noise, overshadowed by success built on precision, patience, and strategic vision. As they reviewed plans, Joel's phone buzzed with a final update from Maddie. David's timeshare office is closing. He's applying for a job as a mall security guard. Guess which mall? The one being demolished next month for a new retail complex. Life, it seems, has a sense of humor. But Joel's focus remained on the future, on building something greater than revenge could ever achieve. The best response to betrayal, he'd learned, is creation, transformation, and success. The sunset behind the Whittaker Fitzpatrick residences, with its restored Victorian facade, reminds him that the most valuable renovations are not just about buildings. They are about rebuilding life itself, stronger and more successful than before.